Okay, so today I want to teach you how to graph polynomials. So say you have this function y equals negative x times x plus 2 times x minus 1. What you're going to do in order to graph this polynomial is you're going to need to find the roots, or which is also called the x-intercepts. And you can do that by splitting up each of these and setting it equal to 0. So if we set negative x equal to 0, we would have that x is equal to 0. If we set x plus 2 equal to 0, we would have x equals negative 2. And if we set x minus 1 equal to 0, we would have x equals 1, right? All I did there was isolate for x. So here I had to take away 2, which is why you have x equals negative 2. Now, once you've found your x-intercepts, you can just graph them on your graph, right? So you can plot x equals 0, x equals negative 2, x equals 1, and then the only other things you have to know is where to start on your graph. So because you have a negative x first, that's going to determine the direction of your graph. So that negative means that you're going to start from the bottom. And I always like to start on the right-hand side of the graph. So I know I'm going to start in this direction. Now, if I start in this direction, I know I'm going to have to hit x equals 1. So I look at the x-intercept for that here. And because this has degree 1, that means that you're going to go through that point. And likewise, when you end up at the 0 root, this has degree 1, which means you're going to go through that point. And at x equals negative 2, the degree is 1, so you're going to go through those points. So for us, our polynomial graph would look something like that. All right, the key is to start from the bottom and then just go through all your points. And then you're pretty much done. So that's how you graph polynomials. Let me give you another example. So say you have something that looks like this, right? Y equals negative x minus 4 squared plus 1. Notice that this is in vertex form. And we know that the vertex of an equation is always hk. So for us, our h would be 4, right? Because it's in parentheses, you take the opposite sign. So 4, and the k would be the plus 1. So our vertex is going to be at 4, 1. So plot that on your graph, 4, 1. That's your vertex. Okay, and then you have a negative out in front. So that means that your parabola is going to open downwards. You're going to have a slope of negative 1. So from this point, you can go down 1 and then over 1. And then you can also go in the other direction, down 1 over 1. And then that is your new parabola. Okay, what if they did the opposite and they asked you to write the equation from the graph? So in this example, we see this polynomial. They want you to find the equation. What you have to do for this is you have to know the general formula for polynomials, and that's always written like this. It's always like y is equal to a. A is going to be the direction of your graph, whether it's positive or negative. And then you're always going to have your x-intercepts. So for here, I'm just going to use some arbitrary letters. So let's just use P, Q, and R. So let's just do x minus P, x minus R. Oh, let's actually do Q, and then we'll do R. So if this kind of confuses you, try to think of these as just the x-intercepts. I didn't use letters like A, B, C because the A is usually represented by the slope. So I just used some other letters. Okay, so let's take a look at our graph. What's important is the x-intercepts. So I know I have an x-intercept at x equals 2. I have one at 0, and I have one at -3. So when you write it, you're going to do y equals a. You have an x-intercept at -3. So remember, when you write them in the parentheses, you have to flip the sign. Now you have another x-intercept at 0. So that's written just like x. And then you have an x-intercept at 2. So when you put it in the parentheses, you got to flip the sign. Okay, so now you have this equation. How are you going to figure out what the value of a is, which is the slope? To figure it out, you can use any point on the graph. I would go ahead and use something like this point, right? -1, 6. And that's useful because you know that in the coordinate point, this is x and that's y. So all you have to do is plug it back into this equation and solve for a. So my y is 6. I don't know what a is. I'm solving for it. And I know that x is -1. So I just plug in -1 wherever I see x. So you end up with -1 plus 3 is 2 times -1. -1 minus 2 is -3. So you end up with 2 times -1 is -2 times the -3 is going to be 6a. Now, if you solve for a, you're going to divide both sides by 6. So you get 1 equals a. So now you solve for a, so plug it back into the equation, and then you've finished this problem and you've solved the right equation for the graph. So for us, our value was 1 for a. So we end up with y equals just +1 times all of your x-intercepts. And this is your answer for this graph, right? You just take this a, put it in here, and then you end up with this. All right, thank you for watching. If you have any other topics, please request them and I will make a video for you. If you're in high school, use this resource. It's completely free and it is to help you get that grade that you want. So thank you for watching.